And, Isaiah 6:1 and 4, and Ephesians 1:19-21 will be our theme scriptures. But, sisters, there's a pandemic of grief. What is a pandemic? A pandemic is a widespread occurrence of something that affects all people at some time. So pan means all, demons means people. A pandemic is something that causes a lack of ease. It's a dis-ease. People are not at rest. There's a lot of unrest. Grief is pandemic. It affects everyone at one time or another. We're still in a pandemic. There's a pandemic of grief, and it's something that affects everyone at some point in time. And not only the death of a loved one, but the loss of things that are precious and personal, such as losses from floods or fires or robberies and other disasters. So grief is a part of loss. So grief is so personal that it takes on its own personality. That is to say that grief is individual and each person suffers in a different way. How can we understand the personality of grief? Well, it's by knowing that there is grace even in grief. So when you learn how to mourn, you can find hope in your grief. You're in the place of grief, of grace, where you can find comfort in your individual grief. So the personality is a quality or state of something. Grief is pain of body or of mind, and it's to be distressed. When you're grieving, you're distressed. Grace is the goodness and favor of God. So how do we grieve in a time of unrest? How do we grieve in a time of dis-ease? How do you help your children grieve when what was familiar to them has been changed forever? Well, sisters, times may be changing, events may be changing, lives may be changing, but the answer is still the same. That's the word of God, because the only thing that is not changing is the answer to the pandemic and to the issues in your life. Even in the midst of the worldwide pandemic, we still have to suffer through the regular issues that we were going through. But the answer is still the same. The answer is always the word of God. The pandemic changed us, but the pandemic didn't change the word of God. Amen. Jesus said that He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. We are still anchored to the word. Has given us stability, and the word still works, and God's grace is still sufficient, even in the midst of the pandemic. Death is a pandemic that touches us all. Death sometimes doesn't make sense. And the questions never stop. Why? How many lost loved ones during the pandemic did this make sense? And so many were in the hospitals, never came out. I was in the hospital at that time too, and people couldn't come to see me. And we just couldn't go to visit our loved ones in the hospital. Everything seemed as though we were on a fast speed. Things happened so fast and so rapidly. We didn't even have time to think. We didn't have time to grieve. Things just couldn't be happening. They were out of the range of normalcy, and it continues. We lost a familiar way of life, and we didn't even see it coming. The pandemic was worldwide, and nobody expected it. One day things were normal, and the next day everything shut down. We were confined to our homes. Nothing was moving. Stores were quiet. Stores boarded up. Everything familiar became unfamiliar. There was an eerie feeling. Sickness and death were all around us, and death of the familiar. Whenever you lose anything, it's a death. It just didn't make sense. We were all learning to grieve, just like one of the characters said in the movie, Gone with the Wind. Right. The life that we were familiar with will never be again. It is gone with the wind. The life that we all knew was gone with the pandemic, and believe it or not, the pandemic is still going on. We don't hear anything about it, but it's still going on. People are still dying from the pandemic. Yeah. We don't hear about it, but it's still going on. But I want to be the voice of hope in what sometimes can be a hopeless situation. I just want to be that voice of hope and encouragement in a world that has seemingly gone mad. Don't you feel sometimes that your personal world has gone mad? In a time when the pressures and stress push people over the edge, there is hope. In a time when nothing seems to make sense, there is hope. And where we get to say that grief, that you wonder how others can go about their daily lives when they're hurting so bad. When you think that you're the only one hurting because your happiness or grief. You think that even though others may be suffering, they can't be suffering as much as you are.
Right.
Your grief becomes so personal, even when others may be experiencing grief as well. But even in the midst of your personal grief, there's hope.
Yes.
When you're going through your pandemic of loss and grief and you seem to feel as though you're dead inside, surely everyone can see the pain in your every step. Surely they can see beyond what they actually see and see that your hurt that you're living with daily is more than anything that anyone else is suffering. So what do you do when you want to stop the world so you can get off? What do you do when you wish for another hurt beside what you're feeling? No hurt can compare with this hurt. It's taken on a life of its own, and it's taken on its own personality, the personality of grief. And this personal individual place of grief, the thing that has its own distinctive character, the thing that has caused torment, pain, sorrow, sadness, happiness, anguish, and heartbreak. What do I do? Well, my sisters, in the midst of understanding the personality of grief, let me assure you that the Lord feels just what you're experiencing, and what you have experienced. He has given the answer to all of your questions, and He has assured you that He is feeling what you're feeling. He understands your hurt and pain because He experienced grief. He understands the personality of grief because He said that He was sent to heal the brokenhearted. He said that He's a high priest who has been touched with the same emotions that you're experiencing. And I just want to look at some biblical examples. We're not going to have time to go through each one because usually this is an interactive workshop. But I'm just going to talk a couple of minutes about number 2 on your handout, and that's biblical examples. In Genesis chapter 3, God's grace was seen even as He put Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. And they were grieved when they were put out of the garden because they disobeyed God. So that was grief because of what they had lost. The grace in that was a promise of a Redeemer. And then in Numbers chapter 20, Moses lost out on leading the children of Israel to the promised land. Don't you know that was grief because of what he lost? But in Deuteronomy chapter 34, God allowed Moses to see the promised land. And this is God's grace, sisters. In Isaiah 6, 1 through 4, I love that. Isaiah said, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord. He was high and lifted up in His train there in the temple. Look at the grace of God in that. When Uzziah lost his cousin, the king of Israel, and Isaiah was going through such grief at the loss of his king and at the loss of his cousin. And in the midst of his sorrow, in the midst of his grief, God lifted him up above his grief. And He said, in the year, He pinpointed that time. He said, in the year that my king and my cousin died, He said, I saw also, very specific, I saw also the Lord. I was seeing my grief. I was connected to my grief. But in that midst of that time of grief, I also saw the Lord, and God lifted me up above my grief because He was high and lifted up, and I could look at Him and not look so much at my grief. And that's grace. In 2 Samuel 12, 23 and 24, after the death of his firstborn son, David realized, he said, my son can't come back to me, but I can go to him. And David and Bathsheba found grace after the loss of their firstborn, and God blessed them with Solomon. And then in Lamentations 3:21 to 26, the grace of memory, the Bible said we don't recall the goodness of God in the midst of the things that we're going through. And then in Ezekiel 24:16, grace in grief, God's promise of a redeemer through Ezekiel. The Lord told Ezekiel, He said, I'm going to take your wife with a stroke. He told Ezekiel his wife was going to die. He said, this night, your wife is going to die with a stroke. And that night, Ezekiel's wife died. But the grace in that was God was going to use that as an example to show redemption to the nation. There is grace in the grief as God used Ezekiel to show the promise of redemption. So when his cousin John the Baptist was executed, the Bible said that Jesus departed thence by ship into a desert place of life. Jesus needed time to grieve. He needed time to be alone with his hurt. He suffered everything emotionally that we suffer. He knows just what you feel when you hurt. He holds out the answer for you. And I usually have scriptures that the ladies read, but please write these scriptures on your sheet. But I don't have time to do that since we're not in the kind of setting that we can. But write down St. Matthew 11:28-30, coming to me, I'll give it later, and later, and I will give you rest. St. John 11:33, Isaiah 53:3-5, Hebrews 4:15. Does anybody have a hand up? Do we have any more? I'm sorry. Okay, just write these things down. Sorry. I gotta give some of the words, if you will. Somebody has a hand up, if you will, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll try we'll try to give a couple more run-on. If you didn't get one, I'm so sorry. Okay, so that's St. Matthew 11:28-30, St. John 11:33, Isaiah 53:3-5, Hebrews 4:15, 1 Corinthians 15:57, Isaiah 6:1-4, Hebrews 12:1-2, and Jeremiah 29:12-13. And again, I apologize. So now we know that Jesus knew grief and sorrow. He lived in this life for 33.5 years, and he experienced every hurt and every sorrow, every grief and every pain that you're experiencing. And he has been touched with the feelings of your infirmities. The Bible says that we have not a high priest, we cannot be touched with the feelings of your infirmities, but was in all points tempted as you are, but without sin. So God knows your hurt. He came to live on this earth for 33.5 years so he could feel your pain. Yeah, you say that he's God. Yeah, he is, but during his sojourn here on earth, he was a man. He was spirit, soul, and body, just like we are. He lived as a man and as an example to us. He wanted to feel your hurt so that when you go to him with your hurt, he can say he knows just what you're feeling because he felt the same thing. He can say, I know what it is to cry because I cried with my friends, Mary and Martha, when their brother died. Even though I knew I was going to raise them from the dead, I felt their hurt and I sympathized with them. I cried in the garden because of the distress and the grief that was getting ready to happen. So Jesus went through the valley of the shadow of death, but he was victorious. And because he was victorious, we are. And then we all know about Job. And you know, Job asked a whole lot of questions of God. He asked God 7 different questions, and he said, why was I ever born? Why didn't I just die when I came out of my mother's womb? Why am I here going through all this stuff that I'm going through? And you know, sisters, you can question God. It's all right to ask him why. He may not tell you why, but you can ask him why. Because he knows your heart. So when why is in your heart, it's okay to ask God. He knows everything anyway. So just say, God, why? Why am I hurting? God, why did I lose my loved one? God, why did I lose my home? God, why did I lose, why did I lose my car? Why did I have to file bankruptcy twice? And why was I homeless? My husband and I were homeless for about a month. Nobody knew it when we were homeless. Nobody knew it. But we were trusting God. It was painful that we lost our home twice. and we lost everything that we had, but God's grace. But God's grace. And so it's painful when you go through. You grieve when you lose anything. We lose something every single day, and that's time. So don't get into tomorrow wishing you had done something today. Because if you don't do today what is designed for today,
That's right.
you're going to lose it because today is full of itself. There's room for nothing else in today. Yesterday is gone.
That's right.
You can't take grace from yesterday and bring it into today. Your day is full of grace today.
That's right.
You can't borrow grace from tomorrow because tomorrow hasn't come. So you live in today and you use the grace that God has given you today. So anyway, Job questioned God. He asked God 7 different questions. But when God brought Job into his presence, God asked Job 70 different questions of him. 70 rhetorical questions that didn't have an answer. Right. Job, where were you?
Come on.
Job, where were you? Job was in grief. He was exiled. He had just lost 10 children. He lost everything that he had. And then he lost the companionship of his wife. Because she didn't understand what was going on. She said, Job, why don't you curse God and die?
Yeah.
She was, Miss Job was a bad rap sometimes, doesn't she? Because we talk about how she turned on her husband and how she was hurting just like he was. She lost 10 children too. She lost everything too. So she was hurting. And we get mad when we hurt. When we don't understand what's going on, we get angry. We think, why is this happening? So she was just so frustrated and she was so distressed at her loss. Job just cursed God and God was just getting over with. But when God brought Job into his presence, and he said, Job, where were you when I laid the foundation of the world? Job, where were you when I created the sextillions of stars in each galaxy? Job, where were you? And I know the name of each one. Job, where were you when I did all this? So God asked for in the midst of his grief, and God lifted Job above his grief. Sisters, we have to let God lift us above our grief and we have to see God, because your grief isn't going to change. You can't, some things that you lose, you can't get back. And so God will lift you up above your grief. It's all about your vertical relationship with God, so that when those horizontal issues happen in their life, that you can look to God and understand that God knows what I'm going through. And he says, come unto me, all of you that labor and are heavy laden. Come to me when your heart is broken. Come to me when you're in distress. Come to me when you don't understand what's going on. He said, and I'll give you rest. He said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart, and ye shall find rest unto your soul. So Job was in misery. He had lost his possessions, he lost his children, he lost his family, he lost everything. She said, Job, listen, it's going to die. It's going to die. Why should you continue to hang on to your godly integrity when God has done all this to you? Curse it and then go here and die. She didn't know the story like we do.
That's right.
We can read what God was doing. He was letting Satan be tempted.
Yeah.
He was letting Satan, he gave him permission to touch Job. But Job didn't have that story. We have it. We can look at, oh, what I would have done. And you would have done the same thing Job did. And the same thing that Miss Job did. So can you feel the pain that Miss Job was going through? Can you understand her frustration? Can you understand her anger? I can. When you've been hurt by loved ones, being murdered by loved ones, committing suicide, by losing babies prematurely, by the long illness and death of a husband, by your own illness and thinking you won't recover, by losing things that can never be recovered. Grief takes on a life of its own, and at times it seems like the grief takes over your life, but sisters, life goes on. Yes. Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 3:1-3, and I won't read it, but write it on your notes. He said there's a time for everything. even in the midst of your pandemic of grief, you can look beyond your grief and you can see the Lord, just as Isaiah did. So it was while Isaiah was grieving the death of his cousin, he experienced that grief and the loss of his loved one. He's also saw the Lord, and the Lord became more important in his life than the loss of his cousin. His cousin was still gone, but God lifted him up above that. And Job, when he was brought into the presence of the Lord after asking God the why of everything that was happening to him, Job had a new revelation of God. When Job looked up and he said, God, I know that thou canst do everything that will probably be withholden from thee. I have heard of thee by the hearing of my ear, but now my eye seeth thee. When God brought Job into his presence, do you understand that Job still had boils all over his body? He had still lost everything. His circumstances didn't change, but his perspective changed. And he began to see God in a new way. Your perspective has to change, sisters, no matter what you're going through on the horizontal level. Your perspective has to change, and you see God in the midst of what you're going through. Just as Isaiah was lifted up above his grief and his pain and his sorrow, he was lifted up into the very presence of God. His grief caused him to have another view of the majesty of God. His focus changed from his own grief and hurt, and he began to see God in a new way. The hurt was still there, but the focus changed. His vertical view became greater than his issues. He began to magnify the Lord above his issues. David said in Psalm 34, "Oh, come, will you let us magnify the Lord together? Lift up God above what you're going through. Begin to magnify Him. You still may be crying, you still may be hurt, but that's okay. Magnify God above what you're going through." What did Jesus say in Hebrews 12:1-2? He said, "Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that does easily beset us, and looking unto Jesus." You've got to look to Jesus, sisters, when you're going through this stuff, when you're going through the vicissitudes of life. You've got to lift it up and look at God. Because if you believe Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and not to your own understanding, acknowledge Him in all your ways, He will direct your path. If you believe that, you got to know that He knows already what's in that path. If He chose you before the foundation of the world, He knows what's in your path. He's got your life laid out for you. He knows everything you're going to go through. He knows everything you've been through. He knows everything you're going through. He knows everything you're going to go through. But He said, keep your focus on me. If you believe He's directing the path, I've got to also believe that He knows us in that path. And I've got to believe James 1-2, count it all joy when you're going through issues in life. Count it all joy, because that's causing your faith to be strengthened. And then you can claim Romans 8:28, and we know. Yes. And I know. You gotta change the we to I. Yes. And I know. What do I know? I know that all things, excluding nothing, the good, the bad, the ugly, all things work together for good. For who? For those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. His purpose? His purpose. So when you're going through issues, know this is His purpose. And know that it's all going to work together. It's all going to work together for good, but you got to believe it, because it's by His grace. It's by His grace. Whatever happens in your life, it's His grace. It's as if you're in a bubble of grace. And when stuff happens, you're still in that bubble of grace. But God is taking you through the issues that you're going through. They're not going to keep you from the grace of God, because you're in that bubble of grace. And whatever you go through, God is going to take you through by His grace. It's all by His grace. But God's grace. But God's grace. It's all about His grace, sisters. And if you can continue to look to Him and know that look at Him and not your situations, you'll be lifted above those weights of grief and sorrow and pain, and focus on Jesus. Let Him lift you above and begin to look ahead of you. Look to the joy that is set before you. He didn't say be happy about what you're going through. He said look at the joy that is before you. You can endure the hurt, and you can endure the pain, and you can endure the sorrow because of the joy that is set before you. Jesus said, weeping may endure for a night. How long is your pain? Don't know. Job's night was 9 months. You don't know how long your night is going to be, but weeping, it's okay to cry. It's okay to weep. Don't stop. Why do we tell people don't cry? Right. You're going through hurt. They say, oh, don't cry. Don't cry. It's good to cry. God gives you tears, so use those tears. So Jesus said, weeping may endure for a night, but the joy comes in the morning. That's the promise, sisters. That's the promise. But I do know that the promise is after the weeping, or even in the midst of the weeping, that joy is the promise. So I just want to hurry on. Look at the handouts that you have, and we're going to go through them. It's okay to express your emotions. It's okay to express your emotions. God gave you your emotions, but your emotions have to have an outlet. And mourning is the expression or the outlet for your emotions. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. How does God know you need comfort if you're not mourning? Mourning is the work of grief. Part of mourning is comfort. Part of mourning is grief. You may stomp your feet. You may just shake your fist. That's a part of your mourning. Mourning, God will comfort you as you go into your mourning. So that's the work of the expression. That's the expression of grief. And grief and sorrow has to have an outlet for the reaction to these emotions that cause physical and emotional problems. So you have to have some way to let this grief out. Okay? So the journey on the pathway to grief is a personal journey for every person. Some may travel rapidly while others take the journey a little bit slower. Each journey is individual. I can't tell you how long to grieve. I can't tell you after 2 months you ought to be over it. You will never get over it. But you'll come to an acceptance, especially when a loved one dies. You'll come to a place of acceptance, but you won't get over it. You'll never get over it. I remember my cousin's been there 22 years this year. I didn't get over it. I accepted it. I come to a place of acceptance. But I'm not over it. I still cry. I still go out to the cemetery and I talk to him. I know he's not there now. I know he's not there. But I do go out there and I visit his grave and I put fresh flowers because I know what kind of flowers he likes. So I change his flowers every 3 months. And that's okay. That's okay. That's how I express my grief. And it's okay. It's okay. Whatever you do to express your grief, it's okay. Don't let anybody tell you what to do as you go through your grief. This is your journey. This is your journey. Okay, so let's just look at your handout for a few minutes. How much time do we have, sis?
At 10 minutes?
10 minutes. Yes. I have not been up here 30 minutes. Have I? 28. Okay, so let's look at the first handout, grace and grief. And I normally have interaction, but I'm just going to read these. I want you to, if you have any questions or any comments, you can please feel free to stop me. But in any time of loss which results in grief, there are a few things that have to happen. So number one, you have to be honest with yourself about the loss. Whatever it may be, your loss is particular to you and no one else. And what you consider a loss may not necessarily be a loss to anyone else. It's personal, you see. And so don't let anybody tell you that what you have suffered, I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. Whether it's a loved one, whether it's a pet, whether it's some personal possessions. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not a loss. It is a loss to you. Okay, number 2, acknowledge your loss and the resulting feelings. Don't act like it's not happening. Because if you act like it's not happening, then you're not going to get through your time of grief. Share your pain. Sharing doesn't mean that you're weak, but you need someone to share your grief with. It's okay to talk about it. You know, I have a grief support group at home, and you just get together and you just sit down and you talk about stuff that's going on. And it's okay, whatever the loss is, it's a loss to you. And so we talk about those losses, and it's okay. Learn what you can from what you've gone through or what you're going through. There's a lesson in everything that we go through. So what does God show you as you go through? Everything we go through, sisters, God is showing us something. He is drawing us close to Him. We're enhancing that vertical relationship with Him, no matter what we go through. Count it all joy when you go through diverse temptations, knowing this is the trying of your faith, what is patience. Everything you go through, you're learning how to trust God. You're learning that you're in the grace of God, and you're learning that patience, patience is in grace. Forgiveness is in grace. Grief is in grace. Everything is within God's grace, and that's where you're going to find it. And number 5 is pray. Just pray. Doesn't have to be formal, just talk to God. You know, I mean, just like, when we have conversation, just talk to God. That's what prayer is all about. Prayer is a connection to God. It doesn't have to be a formal prayer. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute prayer. Just talking to God like you're talking to your Father. He is your Father, and you can talk to Him. And number 6 is read the Word and sing songs of joy. You know, the Bible said that when you sing to God, when you serenade God, He'll sing back to you. Zephaniah read something, I can't think of it right now, but he said he would joy of you with singing. When you sing to Him, can you fathom that when you sing to God, that He will serenade you back? Oh my goodness, and guess what? It doesn't matter what you sound like when you sing to God. It doesn't matter what your voice sings like. You can have a beautiful voice like Terry and can sing in that praise team and direct the praise team and sing all those nice songs that they do sing and that she leads and that Bunny leads and those Glass City singers sing. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting in my living room and sometimes I just sit and I just open my Bible to the songs and I just sing to God. And you know what? Doesn't matter what the tune is. Doesn't matter what the tune is. Because I'm singing to God. That's right. I'm not singing to you. I'm singing to God, and God sings back to me. And the fact that I even take the time just to sit and give Him that time, that will help with your grief. That will help with your silence you're going through, because you'll be so tuned into God that you're strengthening that vertical relationship as you go through these hurtful issues that you're going through. And God will serenade you, and He'll give you comfort. Come to me, I'll be that laboring every day, and I'll sing to you. I'll sing to you. I'll serenade you. Oh my goodness, and you can get lost in there. You can get lost in there, and you forget about the horizontal issues that are going on. You get lost in God, sisters. It's such a blessing. And then number 7, cry. Don't be ashamed or don't be afraid to cry. It's okay to cry. The Bible said God takes your tears and He places them in His bottle. Can you imagine that? Every tear you cry is not going to be wasted. God is saving your tears as a memorial to you. And I believe that when we get to glory, God is going to give you that bottle with all your tears in it. And say, it's okay that you cry. It's okay. God has given you tears, sister, so it's okay. Don't be ashamed to cry. And it's been scientifically proven that when you cry, if they take your tears and they look at them under a microscope, they can tell whether they're tears of sorrow They can tell whether their tears are happiness. They can tell whether their tears are distress. They know the chemical composition of your tears tells what kind of tears they are. Isn't that wonderful? So go ahead and cry. And Katrina always says, oh, don't say nothing to Dr. Dyer. She'll just well up and cry. Don't even say good morning to her, because she'll cry. But it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. Because God knows your tears. And He's saving those tears. I probably have a dozen bottles of tears out there. And it's so okay, so number 8, don't stay stuck in the see what good is in and what's in see what good is in what is in laws and how your focus can be upward. And then number 9, you're in God's place of grace and He is a holy. Okay, and then the second sheet, am I done? 2 minutes. Okay, well, I want to give thanks about this because we're not going to have time to do all that. But sisters, and the last page, because I'm not going to have time to go through it. But mistruths about grief. There's a right way to grieve, not so. How you grieve is your right way. There's no formula to grieving or how you express your grief. Each person's grief is personal. And you have God's grace. No matter how you grieve, you've got His grace. Only the loss of a loved one can cause grief. That's not so. Many losses constitute grief. The loss of a job, the loss of a lifestyle, a divorce, loss of pets, loss of homes, floods, disasters. Those things cause grief. So it's not just the death of a loved one that causes grief. Many things cause grief. People need therapy to recover from grief. Not always. Counseling can help, but not everyone needs counseling. And it's okay if you need to go to counseling. It's okay to don't not do it. Because sometimes you need help, and sometimes in our churches they'll tell you that you don't need a counselor, you don't need to talk to anybody. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. So know that it's okay. I've counseled with hundreds of people who are from grief, from children to adults. And they sometimes need some help to just need somebody to talk to, somebody to listen. You know, because sometimes people no, not saying that. Okay, number 4 is don't talk about the loss, talk about your loss. Talking about the loss helps you become degrees with the loss. Yes. Support groups can be very helpful, and it's a safe place to express your grief, no matter what the loss. So you have to know who to talk to, and know that it's sympathetic to what you're going through. Because a lot of people sometimes they're tired of hearing you talk about your loss, but find somebody you can talk to, somebody who has experienced the same thing that you are experiencing, right? And they can help you through it. Okay, right. You'll get over it, and I think we talked about that. You're not going to get over it, but you'll come to a place of acceptance. But to say that you'll get over it probably won't happen. So grief is over in a certain period of time. Grief doesn't have a time frame. The hurt may lessen with time, but there are different times that the grief will be more acute. Certain times, okay, stop. Stop. Sisters, thank you so much.